shares were suspended at 14.5 shillings back in May 2006. Where do you expect those shares to start trading when they go back to the market tomorrow?
Looking back for 5 years ago, the price of 14 shillings and 50 cents was precipitated by dumping of shares in the market, and then for about 3 months, when a number of people realized that the company was not doing very well. So what one would say is that the real prices at that time should have been about 17 shillings market. But of course, you wouldn't go, that is all utopian. At the moment, we have said that if you look at the company, it was valued at the end of 2008 by professionals, KPMG, and each share was 17 shillings and 20 cents without any market sentiments. From that time, we have had very good results amounting to 865 million shillings. Thereafter as well, the shareholders and the government and the suppliers have injected 854 million shillings. If you take up the two, it comes to approximately 1.7 billion shillings. If you now take up the new shares, because we had new shares, 85 million shares being issued after the conversion of the debentures, if you take up that value and divide it by 265, purely from what you call classroom theory, it comes to about 6 shillings and 50 cents. If you take up the value then, without even considering what you call the future value of the organization, then we are talking of a price totally without any market sentiments of approximately 24 shillings. I would expect the price to be within that range. But again, you can never project a market in a boardroom. It is the market that determines what is going on.
I'm sure investors will be watching with bated breath tomorrow when that share starts trading. I mean, you talked about the future growth of this company. Perhaps to take us back a step, though, because when you were suspended, it was due to very high debt levels at the time. You received a government bailout. How are you positioned as you come back to the market? You already mentioned some of the profits you're making, pre-tax profit in your most recent results, up to 162 million shillings. How is the group positioned, and what's your debt looking like at this stage?
Very, very good question, because one of the objectives that we had immediately we came out to reopen the organization, we changed it from reopening to rescue. We had debt close to 2.2 billion shillings. The banks were out 960 odd million shillings. We have paid it to the cent plus interest. Suppliers were out 900 million shillings. We have paid everything, and the balance, they had already agreed that they were going to convert that into shares. We have what you call the employees. And if you add all the nitty-gritties, 2.2 billion, we have paid it to the cent. The government debt, they granted us 675 million shillings. That was for the reopening. When we came to last year but one, I approached the government, and the government said, look, we are not in a hurry to come out of Uchumi. And I said, they said, give me the formula. And I said, 860 million shillings, that is including interest. The government, we gave the government 100 million shillings in cash, 407 into long-term loan, and 350 million shillings conversion into equity. Out of the 407 million that we got from the government, we've managed to liquidate, and the only balance that will be there as at June, that is day after tomorrow, would be 280 million shillings. The leveraging of the organization has been very, very well done. We have restructured or engineered a balance sheet, and the only long-term debt is 280 million shillings that is repayable in the next 4 years. We have a company that have virtually got no debt at all, except for what I've just explained. So we are talking of net worth of going to the shareholders. It's almost like everything goes to the shareholders, yes.
And of course, you're also looking at doubling value of this company within the next 2 to 5 years, but at the same time planning a cautious return to growth. Now, I see you're planning expansion further into East Africa, so you're looking at the Tanzanian market, the Ugandan market as well. How many supermarkets do you plan to open in those countries and also in your home market?
Now, the number of branches has never been our objective. Our objective has been the growth, not actually expansion. I want to correct this. I may not be a very good Englishman in this one, but we are looking forward into having what I call growth, getting to where the customer is and where we have green area. We haven't been there before. In Kenya, we have 6 branches which are already being done. Incidentally, by coincidence, and also by plan, we are not going into any existing building. We are working with the developers right from grassroots and building blocks. In Uganda, we have about 4 of them that are coming up, and they are coming up again in green areas that we have not been there before. We have Tanzania. We are entering Tanzania, and as we are talking in the next 16 days, we shall have our hyper open. So that is the kind of thing that you're looking at. We are not having any burden in terms of saying we are going to borrow so as to have an extra branch. No, we are working very closely with the developers. and going through what you call very stringent measures of analyzing sites, because site in retail is everything. It is not the number that we are after.
Jonathan, can I just ask you before we wrap up, any lasting reputational damage do you think to Uchumi, just given from where you've come from? What's the investment case for investors coming fresh back into the group?
Among the things that are actually in the company is you find we have built up capability and capacity to deal with growth and expansion. The number two is we have very good members of staff, competitive through people. That is not a challenge. We have a long-term training program that is already going on. The next one is to do with what I call ERP in terms of ICT. We have a system that we are still enhancing. In fact, as we are talking about 3 weeks ago, we have had the whole of East African region is being put together and is being run by under one platform. So those are the kind of things we're talking about. The other one, of course, the number of training. We have a number of people who we are sending all across the world and going to get trained. One of the things, of course, that is very lasting is the culture and attitude in the organization is totally new.
Jonathan, I'm afraid I have to cut you off there. We're out of time, but thank you very much for joining us today. And, we hope to speak to you soon to get an update just on how the supermarket group is faring.